Hi everyone, we're Group 21 presenting Entora, a platform for delightful entitlements anywhere. I'm Christoph and my group members are Ben, Ross, Nolan, and Richard. Today, we're going to give an overview of our current product and show some live demos of both the creator and fan experiences on the app. Then, we'll look at a technical architecture overview and also discuss how we manage our development process. Finally, we're going to look at our plans for SE491 and beyond.
So first, let's talk about the problem we're actually trying to solve. Um, Creators share content everywhere, but most of these platforms are lacking integrated payments or easy permission management systems. So what happens? Well, everything becomes manual. As these screenshots are showing, creators are tracking content requests scattered across DMs, emails, comments. They're manually cross-referencing payments in order to grant access, and then they're maintaining spreadsheets to remember when to revoke access. Clearly, this system is like very tedious. It's error-prone, and most importantly, it's not scaling with the creators' increase in popularity. Um, so Entora's goal is to automate all of this. Simply put, the payment comes in, access gets granted automatically, time expires, access gets revoked automatically. So now diving into the actual product that Entora is offering to the public. Entora consists of two web apps, one that's geared towards the creator and one that's geared towards the fan. So just kind of formalize those rules a little bit. Creators are people who are monetizing digital content that they own. They're going to use the creator app to set up and manage their entitlements, as well as authenticate with the platforms where their content lives, so that we can manage it. Those platforms right now are Google Drive, Discord, some others we're adding. We have GitHub on the way soon. Um, and then what they're doing there is they're specifying the artifact that they're selling. They're setting a price as well as access duration. And then after that, they're just monitoring sales as well as receiving reporting from Entora. Everything exists on one dashboard, and regardless of where the content is hosted, it's available there. Kind of on the other side of things, we have our fans, who are customers that are purchasing access. They receive a payment link, which importantly originates from the integrated platform. And then on that payment link, they can see the entitlement details and the price. Once they complete payment, which happens via Stripe, they get instant access on the integrated platform. There's no manual approval on the side of the creator, and there's no waiting on the side of the fan. I think a key insight here is that creators and fans are never leaving their preferred platforms. Fans can request access where they naturally discover content already, and Entora is just kind of facilitating the payment and access control in the background.
Okay, so I'm going to be going through a demo from the creator user's perspective of Entora. So things like making a new account, logging in, viewing entitlements, and creating new entitlements. So let's say I don't have an account. I'll click sign up, enter in my details, and then a password. And then I'll be brought to the homepage here where I don't have any entitlements yet. You'll notice this banner saying that I haven't onboarded with Stripe and I won't be able to activate any entitlements to receive payment on them until I do that. That makes sense because a user can't receive payment until they've having a Stripe account set up with us. So we would go to that link as the creator, go through all these steps. I'm not going to show that because it's a little tedious. And then we'd be redirected back and good to go in terms of creating entitlements and receiving payment. So I'm going to go to an account that is already set up with Stripe. This is my account. I'll just go log in here. And then you'll see I'm brought to that same page, but it's populated with the 3 entitlements that I've already created. You can see some preliminary details on each entitlement. We also have search functionality here, so I can say like mid-tier and get the filtered result. Let's go and take a look at the details of one of these entitlements. So I'll go to mid-tier content here. So This is the entitlement details page. We can see, the name, the status, which is active, which means that the entitlement is available to receive payment on and send links to fans for. We can deactivate that at any point and reactivate it if we want to temporarily pause payment links being sent out on the resource. We can see some headline statistics here: total customers, how many of these customers actively have access because access does expire. Total revenue, average order value, because the price can change over time. So different fans may pay different prices depending on the time that they request access and make the payment. And then we've got sort of the key details on the entitlement here: the price, how many days of access are being sold, the identifier of the Google Drive resource. So this is like the Google Drive ID corresponding to the document. The sales end date is when the entitlement will automatically become deactive because sales will no longer be accepted. And yeah, these are also editable, so the user can change these. And then we've got a list of all of the customers, the fans who have paid access, so how much they paid. And then we do give the creator the ability to extend, which would reset their 100 days or revoke access. So going back, that's what the details of an entitlement looks like. We've got all of our entitlements here, but what if we want to create a new entitlement? So I'll go new Google Drive entitlement. You can see I'm prompted to authenticate with Google Drive, and this is because the access token has expired. So I'll just go through that, continue, and continue. So now I'm authenticated and I can retry that again, new Google Drive entitlement. And now I'll be brought to an empty entitlement where I can populate this with the information. So let's give it a name, new entitlement. And you'll see it's in an invalid state, and this will remain invalid until I've inputted the necessary information to properly define an entitlement. So that's a name, the Google Drive resource identifier, a price that's greater than 0 and less than $1 million. And yeah, so I can go ahead and grab an ID here from this new resource I've created. Go ahead, input that identifier. Let's make it say like $10. We're going to sell 10 days of access, and let's put the date somewhere in the future. So I can save all that. And then you can see it becomes active because I've properly defined the entitlement with a name, price, identifier, and I can edit this over time. So now this would be immediately available to receive payment on. Fans can request access. They'll be sent a link. They can pay. And then we'll see that those purchases show up in the table here. Yeah, so that's essentially what it looks like from the creator's perspective.
I'll be going over a demo for a typical fan experience for our Google Drive integration. Here we can see we've been sent a Google Doc from a creator, which we do not have access to yet. There's different levels of access we can request. It doesn't matter which one we select. Entora will just grant us a viewer access. So we'll go ahead and request. We can see it's been sent. So we'll go and check our email for a payment link, which should be arriving. Here it is. As we can see, it tells us like what the entitlement is, how much, what the price is, and how long we will have access to it. So go ahead and complete the purchase. So we'll go and put some test data. So some random email address, Visa card, name on the card, some random postal code, and then we will pay. And then once that goes through, we get redirected to the entitlement we requested. If we just refresh, we can see that we now have access.
I'm going to do a quick demo of the user flow that a fan goes through when a creator uses Entora. And so you can see we will have the fan inside the creator's server here, and they're just going to see this roles channel. And we can see that we have this nice message here: welcome, pick a role to unlock exclusive channels. Creator can optionally include a bunch of details here about what each role is going to grant for the fan. And so we're just going to click on the basic access for now. And after a second, we're going to see this pop up, check your DMs for the payment link. It seems like everything went well. When we open our DMs, we'll see this message here that's very similar to what we get in our email when we use the Google Drive integration. And it's going to have this secure payment link that we can use to purchase access for the creator's content.
So to reiterate on the technology we're using, the language we're using is TypeScript, and then we're also using the Next.js framework for front end and back end. For hosting and deployments, we're using Vercel because they have a generous free tier, and they also have a really easy to use API for deployments. For our database, we're using MongoDB Atlas, which is MongoDB's cloud hosted version. And then for our payment processing, we're using Stripe, which is the industry standard. For our repo and developer experience, our repo currently contains a monorepo stack for our front end and back end. This allows us to share things such as tooling and types between the front and back end, which is really important to us for iterating on our evolving interface between the two. And then we also have extensive documents for our just any sort of process we have, whether that be setting up your machine as a GitLab runner for our CI/CD pipeline, or just getting set up as a new developer. You can quickly get set up and start running the app and adding changes through our documentation. And then we also have auto formatting, which just keeps code consistent and readable across the entire code base. And then we also have static code analysis, which checks like the formatting. It checks linting on like the abstract syntax tree for any like bad code practices. And then it also does type checking for us. And then we also have a CI/CD pipeline set up, which does merge request title checks and then static analysis checks. And then we also have a manual deployment job for anyone who wants to test their changes on a production grade environment, which you can see in the little snippet below. And then for a QA plan, our team is pretty committed to maintaining a high caliber quality of software in our repo. Just like basic things of making it clean, readable, maintainable, and consistent. So the first thing we did was we protected our master branch. This just enforces that new features being added, they need to go into their own feature branch and then get merged into master. Then all those merge requests also need to go through code reviews to the team, so all the relevant stakeholders can leave comments on any changes they want. And then we also enforce that our CI must pass. So this includes the static code analysis, and then this also enforces conventional commit messages to all the commits going to master. And then we're also in the midst of adding unit tests, and that's our plan for maintaining the quality of code we want.
Now I'll share a little bit about how we manage our development process to stay productive and coordinated as a team. First, we use extensive documentation in our repository. We have a software requirement specification, or SRS, which outlines a complete set of functional and non-functional requirements for Entora. We also have a developer setup guide, which helps users run the Entora app locally for development in just a few minutes. We have a QA plan, which outlines our testing practices, and we also have CI/CD documentation that describes our deployment processes. For issue tracking, we use GitLab. Since September, we've closed 55 work items, and we're currently tracking and working on 17 open items. We categorize these items by type, things like bugs, features, or enhancements. And we also give them priorities, from blocking down to low priority. Each issue is assigned to a specific team member, has clear acceptance criteria, and is also linked to other related items. Each member of the team also has key areas they focus on and own. Richard manages our payment processing and continuous integration and deployment. Ross works on our Google Drive integration and database architecture. Ben has been leading our Discord integration, and Nolan focuses on our front-end apps and DevX. I work on several back-end services, including our email delivery system, as well as our access polling system. We also maintain a strict set of development standards. We use conventional commits on every commit and PR. We use type checking and linting, which is enforced at the continuous integration stage to make sure that our code is consistent, even though we're all working on it. Finally, we use merge request templates to make reviewing PRs easy.
So with the great work we did to implement our initial 2 integrations, being Google Drive and Discord, we also started to look forward towards the new integrations that we could implement in the product. And there were a number of factors that we considered when trying to decide what integrations to pursue. And so first off, we got some really good feedback in our last presentation about making sure that we're always adhering to the terms of service with our integrations. We'd already done a lot of due diligence with things like Stripe for this because it was dealing with payments, but we're putting a bigger focus now on ensuring that we're adhering to all regulations for the integrations we use. And so, for example, one integration that we were trying to pursue was Reddit, but it turns out that you actually cannot charge in your product when using the Reddit API without a separate agreement with them. And so we are not going down that road. We also took the opportunity to learn from a lot of similar companies in the space. For example, we learned from the integrations that Zapier uses, as well as Memberful, which is kind of the closest comparison to what we're trying to do here. And finally, we also wanted to make sure that we have like this very cohesive product offering with integrations we're providing. And so with Google Drive, we have access to the static content that customers can access. And with Discord, we have the ability to manage community for creators. And we wanted to extend this into a more cohesive product offering. And so some of the integrations that we're starting on now is GitHub. A lot of the work for GitHub has actually been done already by the time of this recording, which is nice. And the idea behind GitHub is that there's a lot of technical content creators out there. So think about YouTubers that are teaching programming languages or frameworks, or teaching someone to use PyTorch, that type of thing. And they often have GitHub repos that they want to share with the people that watch their videos. And so that's one potential customer for who could use our GitHub integration. Another good idea we had was design teams. And so this wouldn't involve payment, but just for example, I started WattAI, which is a design team here at Waterloo. And oftentimes, within the team, we have a bunch of sub teams that need access to different things and to be restricted. And these things that they need access to span across different platforms like Google Drive and Discord and GitHub. We've used all 3 of these. And it's hard without a central place to manage access to who's a part of a team and who has access to what. Some other integrations we're trying to pursue, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So this would be integrating with podcast hosts on one side, hosting platforms that people host their podcasts on, as well as like the place where fans actually view the content. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, that type of thing. And this can be podcasts or any sort of general audio content. We're also looking to integrate with online learning platforms. This is very similar to the GitHub integration in the sense that people have learning content that they want to share with people generally in the world, and we want to help them manage access to this. Now, for future planning, we were able to hit the goals that we set for the final presentation. Looking forward into the time between 490 and 491 and the final term, we want to really expand our integration offerings. So this is going to mean that we want to have 10 plus integrations within the service. And importantly, these should all be production ready, not just some demo that was put together and barely works. We want them to be all production ready and stable so that they're easy to use for creators and fans. On the creator app side, we want to really build out the cross-platform analytics for them to understand what's going on with their content across platforms. This is a place where we think we can add a lot of value with the product, and also just make sure that things are very abstract and handled very well across integrations within the app. On the consumer side, we'd like to have custom pages styled for the creator, for each creator and platform, which is just going to make it feel like a more unique, personalized experience for them. And in terms of go-to-market, we're hoping to add 250 plus entitlements and get 100 plus clients to use the product.
Thanks for listening. We're looking forward to continuing our work with Entora and sharing more updates in the future.